Shine up those loafers. Mario Cristobal is going in home tonight with Damien Martinez.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first or your second listen today, your first watch. We're available free on YouTube. We're available free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and also host of Locked On ACC. Bringing the big guns out today. When we're talking transfer portal, had to bring in my guy, CanesInsight.com. He's part of that incredible team there. Good friend of the show. Brad Tejeda is with us. Brad, how are you, sir?
Appreciate you for having me as always, Alex, man. You know, I always love talking Canes football with you and the Canes fans, man. And as you know, we're gearing up for a big next couple of weeks. As you mentioned, we got Damien Martinez and hopefully some other guys will jump in the portal as well, man. But we got a couple names to talk about for sure.
Yeah, and we'll start with Martinez because getting a durable, powerful, featured running back is clearly a priority for Miami. You know, they've lost already Henry Parrish Jr. in the portal, who's been Miami's most consistent running back for the last couple of years. Also lost Trevante Citizen to the port, which is a big what if because we don't know. Trevante hasn't taken a college snap, but came in from high school with high expectations. Yeah, I don't know exactly when Mark Fletcher's going to be fully ready to go. So Miami wants to surround Cam Ward with the best possible talent, and getting him a stud running back like Damien Martinez is a priority. Now, folks, we did talk about Martinez on our morning episode today, but a couple of important details have changed. When we talked about Martinez this morning, didn't know at that time that Miami was going to schedule an in-home visit tonight before he takes his official visits, which are going to be happening over the next 10 days. And also, one of his official visit destinations has dropped off the board. The Tennessee Volunteers will no longer be getting an OV this month from Martinez. It seems like the Vols are actually focusing in on Penny Boone, who's on his way out of Louisville after just having transferred in there. So Miami's going in home tonight. Then Arizona is scheduled to get a visit from him tomorrow through the 19th. Mississippi State on the 19th, 20th, and 21st. Kentucky, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And then Miami, 26th, 27th, and 28th. And I don't know if it's going to play out this way, Brad, but I'm sure Miami wouldn't mind having such a good in-home tonight that maybe he doesn't take all those other visits, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, going into this transfer portal, I think from a media perspective, fan perspective, however you look at it, you get a guy like Cam Ward, you surround him with great wide receivers that we have and Xavier Strepo and Jacoby George and hopefully Isaiah Horton and other guys. But you still needed that running back, right? We talk about some of the running backs we had in the past, Henry Parrish, Don Chaney, Mark Fletcher. Those guys have either gone elsewhere or are not currently being able to participate with the Miami Hurricanes football team right now. And even a guy in Jay Allen, who you mentioned as well. We are currently with running backs that don't have any experience in a college football game currently. And when you look at that, you need a dominant running back at the college football level, and that's where Damien Martinez comes in. And, you know, we expected the Miami Hurricanes to go all in at a running back, and as soon as a guy like Martinez hits the portal, the fact that not only us fans feel appreciated that the U is by his, you know, by that name, but from a media perspective, it seems like a lot of media outlets seem to feel like Miami is in the driver's seat in that, and that's not what we're used to in years past. So just giving credits and kudos to Miami and the staff for already being on top of their game and doing their due diligence. This is a guy that was number 4th in the country in 10 plus yards run last year in 39, which again, you look at some of the guys in the past and some of the guys we want to recruit in the future. We need home run guys that could break a couple tackles and take it to the distance. And this is a guy that was a top 15 running back in the country as far as yards in the NCAA. So you got to look at Damien Martinez as a top choice, and he is probably the only running back currently in the portal that you would expect Miami to be in the driver's seat for. So it's a good thing for that, and it's also a good thing to look up at his agent and know that it's first-round management, you know, right here in South Florida, Miami. So
yeah,
good win for Miami, and they are the last They are the last visit as well. As you mentioned, Tennessee has volunteered their way out of everything. So you're now down to 4 schools, and Miami is the only school with multiple day visits. And you got a coach and Coach Merritt that's going to make his way to Dallas, Texas tonight and see him before he takes his visits to everyone else. So it sets up nicely for Miami.
Yeah, and someone in the live chat was asking about the Penn State receiver in the portal. I think he's talking about DeAndre
Yeah.
Smith. I've heard Miami's not. I don't know if they're not interested, but they're not in the running for him. So I know people have talked about potentially bringing in a wide receiver. I think in the case of receiver, Brad, Miami would only bring in a receiver if they knew it was a guy who can walk into the starting lineup. I don't think they want to bring in a potential backup. I think they would only bring in a bona fide stud. But yeah, so closing remarks on Damien Martinez. You talked a little bit about media folks having Miami seemingly trending near the top. I've been watching some content from Pete Nakos at On3, and he seemed kind of surprised that Martinez would even take other visits, which maybe from that logic, it's not a great sign, because he kind of thought maybe Martinez would just go to Miami right away. But he is taking 3 other visits over the next week and a half that include Arizona, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. Any of those 3 you would consider to be the biggest threat, or do you think the gap is so wide in Miami's favor?
No, Alex, I think Miami's in the driver's seat, man. And again, you got to understand from this transfer portal stuff, it's very similar to a recruiting aspect when you're recruiting a high school recruit. Even when you feel very confident that this, high school recruit that you're going after is either about to commit to your school or is already committed to your class, you still have to recruit them as if they are not recruited in your class. And you also have to give them the respect and, the diligence to go through the process, right? And sometimes going through that process benefits the recruit or the player going after, whether it's their family or the people that's around them. So again, this is more about just letting Damien Martinez go through the process as far as a transfer portal guy that's hitting the portal. This is a guy that would honestly want to be a take from any college in the country for the most part that needs a dominant running back like Miami and others. I just think he's doing his due diligence, doing things the right way, and Miami's letting him do that. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at, everything that's lining up, it seems like Miami is in a very good spot, and I expect them to, hopefully get Damien Martinez when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and for those who are into checking the rankings and stuff, Damien Martinez is the highest ranked running back available in the transfer portal right now. He is at the top of that. He's the only portal running back he's behind is a guy who's already gone elsewhere, was Quinshon Judkins, who went from Ole Miss to Ohio State. That happened in the previous transfer window. So out of guys currently available, Damien Martinez is right at the top. He's also a top 5 overall player, according to 24/7 Sports, available right now in the portal. Now, he seems to be the transfer target who's generating the most buzz right now. Huge Miami target, but we all know running back is not the only spot Miami's looking to fill in the portal. So we'll talk about what else is going on. We have the awesome Brad Tejeda with us from CanesInsight.com right now. Folks, we are only getting started talking transfer portal live on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Keep it locked. And I'm only getting started with Monopoly Go. Guys, we've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime, scoreboard is not looking good, you're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, you lift your head up, and you say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play in countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Change other players' rent or charge other players' rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or on Google Play. We are also proudly brought to you on this episode by Yahoo Finance. We welcome them to the Locked On family. Guys, let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising costs of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom. With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news data tools you need in order to help reach that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Thank you so much for making this live transfer portal episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We got the man Brad Tejeda with us. Now, Brad, your biggest priorities in the transfer portal outside of running back, which we've talked about, what do you think are the biggest positions of need and any targets you think are high on Miami's radar right now?
I think it's got to be secondary, right? You got to go after probably two guys, specifically guys that can play man-to-man cover. At least maybe one of those guys being someone that could just be respectable on the other side of the football. Someone, that could strike fear into the quarterback or the opposing team. We haven't had that guy jump into the portal yet. There's a lot of different names that you've mentioned in different positions, like a Keandre Lambert-Smith, that wide receiver from Penn State. But I think what you're going to see with Mario and the staff is they're going to be very particular on when these guys jump in the portal and who they really want to key in after, who are some guys they want to maybe keep at distance, maybe like a Romello Height, someone that they've had some relationship with, already have gone through the recruitment process and don't want to pull the trigger right away. But as you saw with a guy like Damien Martinez, when we need a guy in that position and he is a top priority, we're going to go all in for him. And unfortunately, with this portal so far, it's only been open for a day and a half, but there hasn't been any other big names at any other position yet where you can really say, all right, we need to go all in for this guy. Because when you really look at, the numbers, when you really dig deep into under Mario Cristobal with the transfer portal with the Miami Hurricanes, in 2022, he had 11 transfers come into this program. And I don't want to bring up names or anything, but if you really do some research, we probably only hit on about 3 out of those 11 guys, right? So you're talking about a 27% rate that you hit. And then you talk about last year in 2023, you brought in 17 guys in the transfer portal, and you probably hit on about 9 out of those 17. So you're talking about 53%. So you jumped up significantly. But now when you talk about this season, third year into the program, you finally are starting building some of the right pieces, whether it's a Cam Ward, whether it's a Kiko on defense, bringing in Amish Powell as well. And, you now have 9 transfer guys currently into this roster. And I would expect probably 6 currently are going to contribute very well, whether it's Cam Ward, Amish Powell, Elijah Alston, Carpenter, Clark, or Cook, right? Those are 6 guys off the top of my head. But those guys alone, these next, 5 to 7 players that you are going to bring into this program, you got to make sure that at least 50 to 75% of those guys are going to be impactful guys. So that makes you very specific on guys you need to bring in. I will say one name to look out for is Jason Zandamela, the interior offensive lineman from USC. He was prior teammates to Isaiah Thomas, who we know is currently on the Miami Hurricanes, injured, unfortunately. But Jason Zandamela is a guy in the 2024, this past class, that Mario and staff very keyed in on. He was actually probably one of the top priorities in our class, and he ended up going to USC, and we ended up going elsewhere and going with Nino. But this could be a guy that I could potentially see right away and be that backup to Zach Carpenter possibly, and be a future for Miami in the next 3 to 4 years as well. You missed on a guy like Connor Liu in years past, so you want to make sure you don't miss on a Jason Zandamela second time around. He's homesick, so he wants to stay local, whether it's Florida, Miami, UCF, or Florida State. I expect a decision probably within the next week. So I would look for someone like him. Other than that, CJ West out of Kent State is a name to look out for. He had 110 career tackles, 7 sacks. He's 6'2", 315 pounds, all MAC selection. But you also got Demonic Williams, recent guy that hit the portal, defensive tackle from TCU. He was a true freshman All-American in 2022. And in 2023, he was an all Big 12 selection. He fits the measurables of what you're looking out for as far as a defensive tackle. But like I said, again, these defensive tackle, defensive end, these are two positions where we already have a good collective group. Now we got to be very picky. We got to make sure that this next guy that we bring in isn't just a body. This is a guy that not only pushes the room, that possibly starts right away and can be an impact going into August 31st, because we need to bring as much impactful guys come into in that first game against the Florida Gators in Gainesville.
That's a good shout on CJ West. If you hadn't brought him up, I would have. That's a player who I like, and he's got a very good size. He's 315, 320. So in terms of departures, we know there's going to be more, because Miami is, if you count the freshmen who haven't arrived yet this summer, they're going to be over the scholarship limit. I think they're 2 or 3 spots over at the moment. And so far, like, you've had some departures. You haven't had like seismic, like huge. I know a lot of people are upset about Jakari Brown leaving. Potentially has a bright future, but he's not a starter on this team right now. Nigel Lee Kelly maybe could have been, but I don't know when he's going to be healthy again. Trevante Citizen, I mentioned him earlier. We don't really know what we have in the guy, because he hasn't played college football yet. So we haven't had any seismic departures. Are you expecting anything big, or do you think it's going to be mostly guys who are second, third, or even fourth teamers?
You mentioned the numbers, Alex, and I believe we're at 77. You add the 10 freshmen that we still got coming in the fall. You need 2 more guys to get under that 85. And I expect, around maybe another 6 to 8 to leave. So you're talking about 8 to 12 guys that we need to lead the roster in order to not only be under the 85, but then to also potentially bring in 6 to 7 quality guys out of the transfer portal. And, when you look at the current roster, I think you can get most of these guys that you're trying to get under the number. I would say probably 90 to 95% are going to be guys that are going to be either second or third team quality players. But there could be one name. I don't want to bring up any names at all or a position group, but there could be one name that could possibly be a surprise to fans that could possibly hit the portal. I'm not saying he will, but I think at the end of the day, we are honing in on certain position groups, whether we need the bodies or not, or we just need quality depth pieces or guys that could come in right away. I think Mario and the staff is doing a very good job, and you're going to see the more guys that enter the portal, if it is someone that Mario and the staff really believe can make an instant impact, they're going to go all in, very similar how they just did with Damien Martinez. They're not very shy about it. The media is not shy about it. And they're in a position right now where you got the pieces in play to where now you could really recruit some big time names that hit the portal and really make them believe that this could be the year to bring the U back, right? And we're looking at the Pac-12 very heavy. I mean, Cam Ward, Mish Powell, you got some guys, and Damien Martinez is from the Pac-12 as too, right? So it seems like we have a knack for Pac-12 guys, especially with Kiko Manoa as well.
And it's not a coincidence, because Mario Cristobal was through 2021 was coaching in that pack. So some of those connections, and he had a chance to coach against some of those players who have been in the portal now. Want us to answer this question? We got, where did this question go? Here we go, from John Shields, who says, "Hey, what are the 2 or 3 things we need to beat our little brother FSU?" Well, first of all, Miami's probably got the quarterback advantage now over Florida State, because I would take Cam Ward over DJ Uiagalelei. In fact, they went head-to-head last year in the pack, and Ward played better, and his team won that game. Florida State, to me, they're super deep in the defensive backfield in a way that Miami is not. They're really good in the trenches. I mean, Miami may have the edge at offensive line, and still have against most teams. Florida State's defensive line should be really good. And I also I put value in experience on a winning team. Like, Miami has added some players like Mish Powell, who played in a championship game last year. But the returning Florida State players, some of them know what it feels like to lose 63-3. A lot of players opted out, didn't play in that game though, so they know what it's like to go 13-0 and win an ACC championship. And I do put value on that experience. But I mean, Brad, what do you think it would take to beat Florida State at home this year?
I mean, first and foremost, you talk about the quarterback position. I don't know about you guys, but when I follow social media, I don't ever remember Miami Hurricane fans putting DJ in a Miami Hurricanes uniform and wanting him to be the quarterback for the University of Miami. I don't think you could say the same thing about Florida State fans. I think I remember Cam Ward quarterback you to Florida State at one time at one point. Goes to show how much they like Cam Ward, right? Not to mention, I mean, we have guys compared to some of the transfer guys that they have brought in and they are hoping to make an instant impact for their football team, when you really dig deep into the stats and really turn on the film, the guys that they are depending on are guys that might be from big programs, but when you turn on the tape, they don't really have much of an impact. But then when you go to our guys, some of the guys that we have brought in recently, not only are these guys coming from pretty big programs, but they're making very big impacts. I brought up Mish Powell, who obviously started at Washington, played in a college playoff game. You got Elijah Austin making big time plays, Zach Carpenter as well, starting from big time programs. And then CJ Clark and Marley Cook, whether, you're playing in the ACC or in a different smaller conference, they're making instant impacts every time they step on the field. And that's what you like to see from quality guys you're getting out of the transfer portal. I don't think Florida State could say the same. And again, to your point, man, we got a lot of guys that bring leadership to the table. And I really like our wide receiver room this year. Last year, Florida State fans really harped on not only the wide receiver room they had, but, from a stat standpoint, leadership standpoint, guys that have already played in the game and produced. That's what they were harping on this year. Well, guess what? We can do that this year. So I like where our wide receiver room is, and who knows if we add another guy.
Yeah. Last thing, I know we'd said we were just going to talk transfer portal, not recruiting, but since we're talking Florida State, I got to bring up this question from Dudu, who says, "Hey, asking Brad, do we flip Solomon Thomas from FS Poo?" I mean, he seemed like Solomon Thomas had a really nice visit in Miami this past weekend, so there is that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, being at the spring game, man, and I was actually right behind Solomon Thomas when he was watching the team warm up before the spring game, and he seemed like he was right at home, seeming like he was enjoying himself. And he's a guy that, from the measurable standpoint, he's a guy that could definitely come in right away and be a depth piece for Miami. And I like where we stand with the Hurricanes as a flip candidate.
And Solomon Thomas, for those maybe you're not familiar, 5-star interior offensive lineman from Jacksonville. He's I know Miami put a lot into his recruitment. He is committed to Florida State, still taking visits, including to Miami Hurricanes. Are trying to get that flip. So everyone, make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe to Locked On Canes on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. And make sure you check out Brad's work and all the guys, D Money and Peter Ruiz at CanesInsight.com, because I've been telling you guys, Brad, off the air as well. I've had a chance to chat with most of your crew over there. You guys have really been crushing it. Step up the content. I love how Canes content creators, we are family. Like, we're not really, nobody really hates each other. Maybe a few people do, but most of us don't hate each other. And we're, we work together. So I love it. Brad, thank you so much for taking the time. And we'll be seeing you in Gainesville August 31st.
Absolutely, brother. I'm sure we'll talk soon about some Canes football, man. As always, go Canes, and make sure y'all donate to Canes Connection.
Absolutely. We'll talk to everyone. And I think both of our sites have codes. I'll plug mine, not yours, Brad. You guys use the code LOCKED at canesconnection.com for any 6 of their membership tiers. Use the code LOCKED. They're going to give you 20% off your first month. You can't beat that. We'll talk to everyone next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.